Blind mystique Baba Vanga's and Nostradamus predictions for 2020. It's the end of another year and time to see what the seers say is in store for us next year. Next to Nostradamus, the most popular dead mystique is Baba Vanga, whose introductions always point out that she was blind. In fact, the accident that took her sight, a tornado which illegally lifted her into the air and dumped her in a field where sand and dust in her eyes caused permanent, blinding damage, is also said to be when she discovered it was replaced by her clairvoyant abilities. Living in the remote mountains of Bulgaria restricts gathering detailed and accurate knowledge of her life and predictions during that time. But it's widely believed she was consulted by Bulgarian leaders who were then under the Soviet Union and by Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev. While she could write in Braille, most of her predictions before her death in 1996 were recorded by her staff, and this is where her annual prognostications come from. Undoubtedly, Nostradamus is the world's most famous prophet and presumed mystique. His adepts claim that he predicted the future with stunning accuracy. 10 major Nostradamus prophecies for 2020. The outbreak of the Third World War. The latent conflict between NATO and Russia, the exchange of words between Donald Trump and North Korea, but also the fact that in 2020 the US will start the greatest military exercise in Asia made a lot of people think of the Nostradamus predictions. Most of Nostradamus' cryptic messages seem to predict death and destruction. According to his prophecies, a 27 years devastating war will outbreak between two great world superpowers after the rising of the third Antichrist. This is how the prophecy sounds. In the city of God, there will be a great thunder. Two brothers are torn apart by chaos, while the fortress endures. The great leader will succumb. The third big war will begin when the big city is burning. Vladimir Putin will be assassinated and Donald Trump will suffer from a mysterious disease. Nostradamus predicted a very violent year, both for the Russian President Vladimir Putin and for the American President Donald Trump. According to experts, Nostradamus warned about the assassination attempt of Vladimir Putin, an armed conflict in the Middle East, and about the renewed relationship with his American counterpart between 2020 and 2021. The Russian President Vladimir Putin will suffer an assassination attempt by his security team. If the prophecy fulfills, Putin will be betrayed by someone very close to him. Regarding Donald Trump, the prophet predicted that he will suffer from a mysterious disease and that the member of the American president's family will be the victim of a traffic accident. Big financial crisis. According to Nostradamus' predictions for 2020, we are on the verge of an imminent market crash. The short-term but powerful fall of the best-known American stock index at the beginning of this year has caused global effects, determining many people to think of a new crisis. While some analysts insist that we are not witnessing another bubble that is about to burst, like in 2008, other experts think that the economic crisis is lurking right around the corner. In 2020, England will have a new king. The Queen's death will be one of the most perturbing events in the Great Britain from the past 70 years. Since her coronation in 1952, Queen Elizabeth II has lived long enough to meet 13 Prime Ministers of the Great Britain and 13 Presidents of the United States of America. Now she's 92, and this year her reign will end. At the death of the Queen, for at least 12 days, Great Britain will mourn and stop any activity, the experts estimating losses in the country's economy of a few billion pounds. Banks and stock markets will close, and both the funeral and the coronation of the Queen's successor will become national holiday days. Prince Charles will take the throne of the Great Britain. He will then visit Scotland and Wales shortly after the death of the Queen. A new pope in the Catholic Church. It is believed that Nostradamus referred to the Pope Francis in quatrains 2.97 and 5.31, but the French prophet predicted the death of a pope in 2020. Pope Francis' successor will be a young man who will obtain high position in 2020. The quatrain's interpretations claim that the new pope will create a scandal in the Catholic Church starting from 2020, which will last until 2029. Pope Francis will be the last true pope, while his successor will be a Pole whose papacy will lead to the disappearance of Rome and who will be, in fact, the last sovereign pontiff. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will reign Peter and Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed and the dreadful judge will judge the people. The end. The climate change will affect the planet and the world leaders will start to take measures against pollution. There will be hurricanes and earthquakes in some areas of North America. Yes, there will also be financial prosperity in 2020, but only if the money will be used, claimed Nostradamus, for good purposes. 2020 will be characterized by many natural disasters, but also by accomplishments in science. There will be floods in many countries from Europe, Italy, Czech Republic, Great Britain, a continent that will endure many terrorist attacks. In the Middle East, the extremism phenomena based on religion will increase. A major earthquake will hit the area between California, USA, and Vancouver, Canada. The Europeans and Americans will face the immigrant issues and the terrorist attacks will be increasingly higher. What did Baba Vanga predict for 2020? The blind Bulgarian clairvoyant predicted right before her death at the age of 85 that 2020 will bring an invasion of the Muslim extremists over Europe and that our continent will face chemical attacks from the Muslim invaders. During the following period, the European continent could reach the end of its existence, also claimed Baba Vanga. Most specifically, the prophet known as Nostradamus from the Balkans told the people close to her, the extremists will use an arsenal of chemical weapons against Europeans. For 2020, she also predicted the economic fall of Europe and an assassination attempt against the Russian President Vladimir Putin. She believed that the threat for the Kremlin leader could come from within his country. Also, the American President Donald Trump will become sick with a mysterious disease that will leave him deaf and he will suffer brain trauma, according to the clairvoyant. The clairvoyant said that the world will suffer from a lot of cataclysm and great disasters. The consciousness of people will change. Difficult times will come. People will be divided by their faith. We are witnessing devastating events that will change the fate and destiny of humanity, a reference to the changes we will soon have to face. For the distant future, she predicted that life in cosmos will be discovered and suddenly it will be clear how life on Earth first appeared. And in the next 200 years, people will get in touch with their spiritual siblings from other worlds. The Soviet Union will be rebuilt in the first quarter of the 21st century. Until 2015, there are 14 more years, and it is unknown what alliances will appear until then. Trains will fly by using sunlight, the petrol production will stop, and the earth will rest. There are increasingly more discussions about solar energy, so the foreteller's predictions doesn't seem so futuristic. A strong dragon will seize humanity. The three giants will unite. Some people will have red money. I see the number 100, 5, and many zeros, predicted Vanga. The interpreters presume that the dragon is China, which became a superpower. The three giants might be Russia, India, and China, and regarding the money, the 100 yuan and the 5,000 ruble notes have red color. At the beginning of the 21st century, humanity will get rid of cancer. The day will come when cancer will get tied with iron chains, predicted Baba Vanga. Is the end of the world coming in 2020? The end of the world seems to be an obsession of all previous and current generations. In this apocalyptic scenario, there is a lot of naivety but also self-culpability. Instinctively, people felt that in their normal behavior there are many errors concerning Nostradamus' claims that any deed has its reward. This is probably the root of the end of the world idea. It is certain that in all the scenarios regarding the end of the world, the serious wrongs that would determine it were also incriminated. The goal of these threats were meant to warn the people about the sins: hate, aggression, negative thinking, self-destruction, wars, pollution, and the destruction of the natural environment, deforestation, the destruction of the animal and plant species, industrialized food system, depletion of planet's resources, etc., committed by humanity in order to avoid them.